What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Roots and Streams podcast. I am your host, Matthew Yamas, and I'm coming off of skipping a week. Last week, like I mentioned, if you listened to last week's podcast, coming off a trip to Vegas. You're like, why is Matt back in Vegas? It's like my first time going back before COVID. I thought he was a Christian guy. Do Christians go to Vegas? Is that a thing? Started a business. You may notice, may or may not. Wait, where am I looking? 818 Auto Detail Co. So that's different from my business partner, best friend Mario Mejia, 818 Auto Detailing. We just slightly changed it a little bit, 818 Auto Detail Co. to do the shop, our shop, which is going to have retail in the front and detail in the back, kind of like a mullet thing going on. And we're working on renovating. We got our lease. I can finally talk about it 100%, even though I was probably telling some people already. But you know, technically we were kind of keep it hush hush, just working slowly to make sure that we can make that progress forward. And yeah, wanted to keep it somewhat on the low. And there's still some details and things that we have in surprise for people. I have been sharing the last couple of days of what renovations have been looking like. Mario, unfortunately, but I think it's working out, is still stuck at his job right now. So he can't help that much, but I mean, he's going to be kicking butt and doing probably the majority of the work because he's our master detailer when the time comes. So all that to say, it has been a really packed week and a half or so for me. God just moving in ways and encouraging me to move with him. And the timing on everything has been so wild. I'm actually have a little bit of juice here. I don't know, does anyone else drink juice? Like, I bought a juicer with my first wave of kids, and they probably sat in the cabinet for about 8 years, and busted it back out. So this is like an apple, orange, carrot, ginger juice, and I put some turmeric in there. It's amazing, and super, super healthy. So yeah, these last couple of weeks, I mean, I'm talking tears, joy, surprises. It's been all the things, and tears of joy, really. Just seeing God's hand and timing on this venture, on us getting the keys to the lease that I was working on for weeks and trying to assure and follow up and not overdo it with the person that we were getting the lease from, but wanted to do it before we went to Vegas. We went to Vegas for an auto expo called SEMA, which I had never been to. I had heard of, and it's like everything cars, pretty much aftermarket. So everything like tires and brakes and just car stuff. I'm not a huge car guy. You're like, man, why are you not a huge car guy, but you're starting a auto detail business? Yes. I mean, I have a lot to learn, which I'm excited for. And so we went to that expo. And so Tuesday, I'm just pushing, like trying to get this lease. And we were so close. I just want to sign, give the check, like just seal the deal before we go to Vegas. So we're going to Vegas Tuesday night to drive overnight from like 11 o'clock at night. And at 7, like it was like 6 o'clock, like finally signed, paid, gave the check. They came to pick it up. We walk into the shop at 7 p.m. or so just to take a look, go back home, pack, get the family ready. And we're off to Vegas at 11 p.m. Like the timing is ridiculous. Like, and there's so many other like examples I can tell you that just things have been falling into place, and they continue to. And so I think it was Tuesday morning. Like I could feel that and sensing we're going to sign this thing, and then we're going to Vegas for this expo. And the timing on this is crazy. Like when I was driving to basketball, and I had only really shared this with my tribe and my wife, and I'm not afraid to share it here. And God usually catches me while driving to basketball at 5 a.m. And just thinking about him, thinking about situations, worshiping, and just started noticing the timing, and I'm playing a specific song, and I'm just like already just so grateful and thankful to God for this journey that I've been on and how he's putting everything into place now. As I've kind of, not kind of, as I've went through my own struggles of idolizing money and the stock market. And I'm not saying those things are bad, but I was idolizing them. But it was just not a good thing for me. It kept us afloat financially, but it also took away money. So I don't know if that was 100% good. And I really struggled with getting discipline in that and getting some accountability. But all that to say, it's just really been a journey. And so on that Tuesday morning, just reflecting on it, on seeing the timing of everything that is about to happen. We're about to sign the lease. We're about to go to this expo to kick everything off and get me initiated and more familiar with the industry. I'm just so grateful. And then like a song comes on randomly called On Time. And it just broke me. I was just like ugly crying in my car, just so. But like I don't know if you ever experienced like that cry of just joy, but not because like you won the lottery. It's just this peaceful, like grateful cry. That like how could a God that's so great still have the time to look and get into the details of my life? Like that's kind of what I was crying from, and so grateful from that. And so yeah, that's what kicked it off that morning. And sure enough, that night we signed the lease. We drove to Vegas to go to the expo. Like we were so busy, like there was no messing around. We were just at the expo. Whether you believe me or not, that's fine. And funny enough, we get in. Here's a funny story. We get in like at 4:00 in the morning, and I feel bad for this. And Mario drove the whole way. Like, what a trooper, right? And I did my best to stay awake, but he was locked in. And we get there, and we had to stay at Circus. My first time staying at Circus, and we stayed in the renovated side. But I guess they, oh my gosh, they renovated everything. But the bathroom door handles, apparently. So we get there, we settle in. I'm tired. I'm already ready, like getting into bed. I'm cold. Mara just, goes into the bathroom real quick. And all of a sudden I hear him playing with the door. Like, man, what's up with this guy? Forgot how to, unlock a door and get out or something. And I go and check on him, and we're both like turning it. And this thing is just broken. It's just broken. Somehow it broke off from the part that opens it. And so I call downstairs. Remember, it's like 4 or 5 in the morning. It's like 4:15 or so. And so I call, and they're like, oh wow, that's really bad. Yeah, we'll get someone up there. We're going to expedite this. And I'm like, okay, cool. Expedite, urgent. They'll send somebody 5-15 minutes. So, I just relaxed, and it was like, oh, it was 5-15 minutes. I could just sit on the bed, relax. Next thing you know, I wake up to somebody pounding on the bathroom door saying, Matt, wake up. And my phone's ringing. I feel so bad. I knocked out for like a good 30-45 minutes maybe. And Mario's still stuck in the bathroom. Some of you may have seen on social media. He posted it. And he's like, hey, you fell asleep? Call downstairs. Poor guy. I call downstairs again. This time for sure. It was like 10 minutes later. They finally send somebody. They break open the door. And I'm thinking, man, this is terrible. Like, they got to give us a suite. And I even mentioned it like, hey, what about putting us in a suite? Like, this is really bad. And it was just the guy repairing it. He just laughed it off. He's like, we'll get you this room across the hall. So that's what we got. We got the room across the hall that had a working bathroom handle. And I guess that was an upgrade. But everything aside, it was funny. It was, even in that, like all things work together for our good. Like I'll even say that maybe it's easier for me because I wasn't the one stuck in the bathroom. But it's been great just sharing that story of that's like how we got into Vegas and we signed the lease. We drove over, got stuck in the bathroom. Matt falls asleep. Like my business partner's already fallen asleep in, this partnership. just sharing that story as he was introducing me to other detailers, other people in the industry, showing me around. It was fun. Um, yeah, and so that whole expo of just showing me different products and looking around who we might partner with, was just all great. It was a lot. It felt like a lot. Like I was overwhelmed, but like in a good way, and just didn't really know what to do with it. But I just like I needed it. I have a lot more to learn in this industry, and it reminded me of um, when we were sitting at the bank opening up our business account. Like it dawned on me, like, dang, God, oh, has for whatever reason has a pattern, or maybe it's me, I don't know, of putting me in fields, in professions where I am not anywhere near an expert. I didn't study for the test or anything. Like for me to be an like an educational technology coach for teachers, like I wasn't a teacher. I had no experience in the classroom. I knew about technology. I can maybe figure out education, and I had to go and like talk to teachers like humbly and in an embarrassing manner to some extent about like what's a lesson plan? Like what goes on in this classroom? Can I just sit in? And that was probably like one of the teachers that I was going to coach. So it just was interesting how I've had to do this is like learn a lot, and God puts me into positions where it's like, you know, nothing here, but just trust me. And I dawned on me when we were in that bank. I'm like, man, girl, like, and that's what I call Mario girl. Um, like this is crazy how now I'm starting all over again. And I'm in an industry where I really don't know anything. Like, yeah, I know about cars. I know a little bit about details because what I know from you, but I got to learn everything all over again. And it is overwhelming. I feel like I don't have time to do it, but it's like God just saying, are you going to trust me again here now? Like you were successful then, you could be successful now. And so I'm having to dig up some faith, humble myself, and it feels like it's a good thing, but it also feels intimidating. And people walk into a shop that maybe I don't know as much about the product as them or about the detail as them. And it is what it is. I'm just gonna have to learn a lot and keep pushing forward and do what I can today and let that be enough. So we come back and yeah, I just one thing I wanted to share that was pretty big and just even in getting recording this now, like I'm recording this in the morning because I got to go drop off my daughter after this. So definitely sticking to like 30 minutes because she has to be at her school at a certain time. Then I'm going to go work and continue renovations. So just getting more organized and making time for everything here. But in the last couple of days, I've noticed like an anxiety, like of wanting to do things like fast because, we're paying for these days that we have this shop open. Like when you pay a lease, right, or a mortgage, there's going to be that day where it's due again, right? And do you have the money to pay it? And so but I've known just from the amount of time, the life experience so far, especially in the last couple of years, that if that's my focus is like fear of paying that off, it really messes up with today being productive and doing things in God's time, in God's manner. It doesn't usually happen like in a very loving, peaceful, like wise way if I'm just stuck in fear about 3 weeks from now of when I got to make that payment. So the last couple of days I have been feeling like, man, I want to get this much amount done in this week. And we keep running into roadblocks. Like if maybe you've seen the great, the great glue war that I've been having with the floor over at the shop. And one word, it was funny. One word. So talking with my tribe, and my brother Eric, so not my blood brother, but my brother in Christ, Eric, who we're trying to get back on having our weekly like small group sessions, and that's online. So making time for that, right? Making sure I hold things in priority that are really feeding into my life. Like that's a big thing. And so when Eric is like, I'm telling him the last couple of weeks what it's been looking like, what I've been going through the last couple of days, and they're like, "Man, you're moving fast. Like you signed that lease, like you looked it over." And he spoke to me in a way where it was affirming for sure. He was saying in a positive way, like he's like the haste of your movement. And that word haste for me kind of stands out, of having enough dabbling in proverbs and scriptures, and like, wait, haste? Haste is not always a good thing. If I know anything, and I meant to get some scriptures here, but like the Bible talks about, like if you move in haste, right, or get rich haste in a very quick, hasty way, you will become like poor and even worse off than before. Like when we haste and we move with anxiety, it is not a good thing. So when he said haste, he meant it in a good way. And it's not as common, but the Bible does also talk about how moving in haste when you know the one who has called you, right? That when you know the purpose on what you're doing. And that's more so what he meant. And I do feel like moving on this lease, it may have looked like haste. And in that moment, in that day, and going to the expo, it felt like haste. But it was a haste, and like I knew that God had put us in that situation. That location is such a great move for us. Like the expo is falling right on time, because if we would have signed like maybe 3 weeks before, even, we would have been doing renovations. We would have been trying to open up. There would have been no time for the expo. It's like next year. Let's just establish ourselves. We'll go next year. Like, so the timing of that, wild. So that kind of haste of like when God says go, we go as fast as we can on the last thing he's told us to do. And so I feel like I've done that. And now in the work, I'm starting to take on more burden. And I'm not talking about like more work, like workload, but just more burden mentally than I should. And kind of losing and sorry if I get too like Christian-y in my wording. I'm not trying, which is kind of what makes sense to me. Like I'm trying to make sure I only take of the daily bread, right? If you're familiar with that prayer of thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. So daily bread in the sense of everything that God's given you, food, resources, time, is enough. He has already deemed it. Today is enough. Let tomorrow worry about tomorrow. And I started worrying about tomorrow. I started worrying about a week from now in these last couple of days. And it's like, man, we're not getting enough done. And rushing and doing things and maybe even stepping on some toes, because I just feel this anxiety of I need to get this much done. And that haste, right? Like building this thing out and maybe skipping some steps and Mickey Mousing some things. I feel like that haste is the one that's going to get me into trouble, because not only is it not going to look good, it is going to set the tone for how I run this business along with Mario, and he'll feel that anxiety from me, even though he's not working in that manner. So I feel definitely God checking me, and that word was great because it pointed out, yes, I did move with haste. We did do everything that God had set up for us. And now what am I going to do with this haste? Am I going to then now take a minute, make sure I'm still doing my Bible study, my prayer, right? Because those are the things for me that really set everything up. Like in this last month, since conference. So I know like the last time I've talked like this, just kind of journaling was coming back from conference. So since then to now, like I feel like I've been very good about spending time, like reading my word, praying, and letting that be the kickoff of my day. And that has led to us getting all the licenses and permits and lease and logo and all the things, and the signing up for the expo and just, reservations. And just this last month, it hasn't been without leaning on God first. And every day I would do it. It's like, wait, do I have time to do this? Wait, it worked yesterday. I got everything done and more than I could have imagined. And I still got tired. Maybe there's something to it. And I don't want to lose my focus of that. I don't want to lose sight of that as I go into this part that may require changing schedules, right? We'll probably have to open a certain amount of time, and I run the retail. So how do I still like launch my day with leaning on my Heavenly Father, on God, and allowing it to give me peace and patience to go about my day instead of starting my day anxiously, thoughts going on that were going on all night, probably the night before, and then jumping into work and forgetting maybe to hug my kids and just doing all these things to try to pacify the anxiety in my head instead of putting that down, accepting whatever I can get done today is enough, and letting God just be in the details. Because I'm telling you, he has. Even this first week, it is crazy. Let me just double check on my notes, make sure like I touched on, because I do have notes, even though. So yes, that's the one good thing. A holy haste versus a rash haste is something I was just noticing, and I'm so glad Eric that said haste, because it just really helped me to focus. Have one thing I do want to finish with, so I want to touch on that one there. But these last couple of days, so we've had help from Mario's dad, who's helping us do construction, and even that. So let me just point out like little details, like little blessings that maybe sometimes we don't pay attention to. Like Mario's dad is waiting. Like usually he's busy. Either he's like out of town and working, or he has work, and he works construction, and he's in between jobs right now. Like literally, the job he's waiting on is like waiting on a permit to go through an inspection, to go through with the city so he can continue the work. And like it's like this perfect time for us to utilize him to help us with some renovations. And so there's that, right? And then so we start talking about the floors and how we're going to rip out the carpet. And that carpet wore me out. We rip out the carpet and talking about the floors, and I see our neighbors outside. So we're like in this space in the lease, on the lease space that we have is like little warehouses. And so we're in the middle of like two, and then there's more, and we have one on each side. So I see some guys that are on one side, and I introduce myself just because they're outside, and I want to be friendly with my neighbors and want to have a good relationship with them to kick off. So introduce myself, find out and I kind of saw already like they do flooring, and start talking to them, and then they give me some advice, and they tell me, no, yeah, you need to do this and don't do that. I'm like, oh, okay, because we were just gonna put like the flooring right over the carpet, and they're like, no, don't do that. And so we rip out the carpet, and then now all there's glue there, and trying to rip out the glue, and so I keep going back to them for advice, and to me that was a blessing. Like we need to work on this floor. And we have a flooring company right next to us, right? We want to paint the ceiling. And so Mario's like, okay, I'm going to record the shop and I'm going to post it on my Instagram, and so I can get some people to see if anyone that follows me can give me some advice. And go and introduce myself to the guy next door. Lo and behold, right? They do painting, and they do residential painting and cabinet painting. And I asked him, can you paint the ceiling? And he's like, yeah, we can paint the ceiling. We can do that. We have the tools to do that. I was like, oh, okay. So, things are just setting up. And then as we're doing construction and we're tearing out the drywall and all the construction materials, and I'm calling the city because like don't want to just illegally dump it as some people do in like a blue bin and a black bin. Like I already kind of know like these things have to be disposed of properly. And I just started a business. I don't want to get hit by the city that quickly and get a ticket or a big fee. So I find out we got to drive it over to an area like in 15 miles away or so. Probably going to cost $100 or more to get rid of the materials. And but in talking to our carpet neighbor, they have a big old trash bin that they get rid of every week. And they say, just throw your stuff in there. So we get to throw all of our materials. They just bless us like, hey, yeah, it's fine. Throw them in there. No worries. And it's like just all these things that are setting up. But again, if I don't, and if we don't sometimes allow room for God to work, like I could have just been like, no, I'm busy. I'm not introducing myself to my neighbors. Nope, I got to do this. I do that. I got to do this. I would have been scrambling and maybe installing the floors incorrectly. right? When Mario would have made that post and we would have been getting quotes and talking to people, it was just like how much energy we would have been kind of putting out there because it's all on our shoulders now instead of like, no, I'll do things at like a nice even pace. I'm not trying to waste time, but I also want to be friendly, want to be like peaceful with my neighbors. And that's something that's also important. And God works in that. Even though I didn't see that. I didn't do it because I thought they were, it was going to benefit us. And we get like to dispose. Now I don't have to make that drive and waste like an hour and money. So just, for me, I think it's helpful to recognize when God is working in the details to be sure that I don't overdo it and get anxious and try to do it all on my own. Yes, do what's in my hands as much as I can and do the best I can, but not in an anxious way where I leave no room for God to kind of do his thing as well. And just noticing that in this venture moving forward, like even making time to record this podcast, I don't know exactly what everything's going to look like moving forward. I have an idea. And one thing I was going to mention, I'm a little disappointed that I waited this long. Even yesterday, right? I had a marriage counseling session and we did it virtually for the first time. I'm like 100% virtually. I was at the shop. Sandra was here at the house. Our therapist is always virtual. But making time for that. And even that was kind of stressful, even though I knew, and it was a great session and my marriage needs that as we're making this change, as we're growing, there's growing pains and there's things that we're having to figure out in this change. But making time for that was then put some stress on the things I had to do or I felt like I had to do in the shop. But I don't want to lose sight of this. My marriage is super, if not more important than the shop for me. Like my friendship with Mario is more important than the shop for me. However, at times we can convince ourselves that money is the most important thing. Our job, our business is the most important thing. But it's funny how when we do that, and then the business goes under and we lose our money, it's like, oh man, I lost my marriage. I lost all my relationships for this business and this business went under. It didn't, or I'm super sad and I have all this money. Like it's an illusion. And I just am trying to get myself aware of it, that my priorities are in place. That's all. And I think, I think that's it. And I just want to mention one last thing. Probably nobody's listening this long, but I'm still going to say it to get it off my chest, is that like, I promise there's so much more. Like if you're listening to this long and you've heard me talk about Christianity, like I promise there's so much more to Christianity, to the Bible, to relationship with God than whatever you see like in political and national like Christianity. Like I get, and like my mind and my view is not even in the news that much. Like I'm hearing things super late. I'm just trying to focus on as much attention as I can as my family, this business, my wife, and allowing other things hopefully to take care of themselves. But I do see some of it, and I'm not necessarily trying to neglect it 100% because I don't care or anything. Like just trying to stay in my lane where I have it. And I just see and hear, and it hurts sometimes, but I understand completely, right? Of like blaming a religion or blaming Christianity, and even calling it a religion is interesting because I just see it as a relationship. And I think the Bible has wisdom and it has so much experience about like the human experience. And I just hope that like all the rhetoric and the negativity isn't keeping people away from like what to me the Bible and is trying to do, is trying to reunite like us with like a divine father, a heavenly father, with a God that created us. And I know that may sound weird, but I swear there's so much more than, abortion and LGBTQ hate and all that. Like, I don't even know if all that's necessarily in there. And I may get some eyebrows raised and Matt, what are you talking about? But I would challenge you to maybe like do a little digging for yourself. And because for me, it just meant so much. And I just want to see it, hopefully, at least the opportunity for other people to maybe experience what I'm experiencing, if it's possible at all. But that's all for today, y'all. I hope y'all have a great day. I'm going to continue on this and share as much as I can. Until next time, peace.